the recording and my phone's going. This is like this is the recording and my phone's going. This is like
low quality production.
And my phone's going. This is low quality. And Twitch is running in the background. Okay, all right. I think we're good. My God, I swear to God, this is not the first time I've done this. How you doing, Russ?
Apparently better than you are this morning.
Oh man, this is the culmination of well, at least a week, but in reality, like weeks of just like crazy, not even just work, tons of work, but also just like life events and all kinds of weird crap. How are you doing? How is your life?
My life is just as crazy as yours right now because I'm doing my PhD comps on Monday, the 19th.
God. Talk me through that process. So like I've never gone through that. I haven't even gone for my master's. So tell me what's involved there.
Yeah, so it's so the PhD is in philosophy, and I asked my major professor what should I study, and he said, "Well, the list of all the books you've read in the program, which is by the way around 200,
yeah,
the questions can come from any place in there."
Wow, that's
like,
that's a little
thanks
intense.
For narrowing. That's a very good job of narrowing the amount I need to study there.
Yeah, it's like like this like tome of knowledge built over decades. Yeah, you can probably memorize that in a few weeks, right? Like, cram, maybe some caffeine.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So other than that, I don't know. I just I've been working on a new next top draft for BGP, link local next top draft for BGP, and Tony P and I are working on some stuff for ISIS drafts, and I've got to. I got to write it. I got to update the draft on dist opt flood, distributed optimum flooding. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I got a webinar in a couple of weeks with Pearson as well, and I haven't even done the slides yet. I hope nobody from Pearson's listening.
I've had that problem many times, and I'm past the point of being ashamed of admitting that I do those kind of things last minute because there is a documented personality type that excels in those situations, and I feel like I'm one of them. Not to mention, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So like if I've been producing satisfactory content at the last minute, why would I try anything else?
Well, I'm usually not that way, but for some strange reason, these last couple of weeks have been absolutely insane.
Have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs? Not that it's the end-all be-all. In fact, I don't really believe in much of it, but have you ever taken it?
Yeah, I don't believe in much of it either. But yeah, I have actually taken it.
What are you at?
I'm an introvert, by the way. For anybody who didn't know.
We are in technology, dude. There is no place for introverts. Are you kidding me? Oh, my God. We are all social creatures. We love to go down to the pub and just just meet people. We just derive energy from that. We want to do it all the time. So there's no place for that. Get it out of here.
which is why my wife always says I should not go to these conferences with you because you're so busy. And I'm like, the reason I want you to go to these conferences with me so that I have an excuse to go to dinner with somebody and not be, on.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh my God. Yeah, conferences especially, man. I used to, especially when I was like, a little earlier in my career and like, doing all the drinking and staying up all night and all that kind of stuff. Like that was fun for a little bit, but man, even then, even just when I was trying to like make connections in the industry, it was still so draining, and I felt like there was no escaping it until you could actually get home. Because even if you went to your hotel room, it's like you're still out.
Yeah.
It's not even that much of an escape to just go to your hotel room, and even then people are like, "Yeah, weirdo, you're not staying up until 2 a.m. How dare you not be part of this?" You know what I mean? So it's just I don't know. I don't know. That's one of the reasons I like the whole meetup craze is because it's like 3 hours and then you go home. It's like pretty cool.
Yeah. Which reminds me, we should talk about Next Work.
Yes,
everybody needs to come to Next Work. Everybody needs to come to Next Work. They just do.
Yeah, Next Work is pretty fun. I've only ever been to one, and
I've only ever been to one.
That feels weird to say. Oh yeah, and you weren't even an employee at the time. That's when we recorded the chaos engineering video, wasn't it?
That's right.
We found a. It wasn't quite a closet, but it was pretty close. It was like an abandoned office with no decoration. Pretty sure some sort of government agency uses that as like a black site.
And it was pretty chaotic trying to record that. And the video
Yeah.
didn't turn out. The audio and video didn't turn out the best. I've switched mics that I carry on the road since then. Those
I've
mics are
wanted
actually
to. I've never stuck with any like this stream itself is like the longest that I've ever stuck with any sort of like long term media. Like we did like the Class C block with me and Matt Stone. We did a bunch of shows there, but that kind of fizzled out. Um, I'm involved obviously with like the Tech Village podcast, but I'm not running that, and so I'm not responsible for that continuing. So generally, I'm not very good at keeping up, but like I kind of want to try like experimental different kinds of recordings. Like I've thought about maybe like strapping a GoPro to my head, the kind that like hooks around front and shows your face, and then just like riding my bike, and then like and like trying to
going to a conference. Going to a conference.
yeah, and then like trying to get the audio to not totally suck. Like that's a challenge, but I don't know, that'd be fun. I don't know. I just wanted to try different things, but I just don't have the time. It's like I do not need another side project right now.
I can always include you as a potential co-host on The Hedge.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, as long as you don't mind the audio being like, all right, this, today I'm working on, just like the wind going by.
Oh, for the bike?
Yeah.
You'd ride a bike while you were recording?
Oh,
Sure.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, why not?
Why
Sure.
not? It's fun. And then if I get in an accident, it'll be even more fun for the viewer. Be like, this show is awesome. I'm going to tune in next time. Matt's just going to get hurt.
Yeah. So, I often wanted to do video recordings when we were doing video at the Network Collective before I left the Network Collective. I often wanted to do the video recordings from the beach. But I could never get the mic to work.
Yeah,
like
that's
because
challenge,
because if you face the land side, right, then the wind is always coming off the beach.
Yeah.
So the mic is always facing the water, which means the wind is always into the mic.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you make the audio sound worth anything.
You could take like a big heavy blanket and like throw it over you, but then the viewer doesn't see the beach and everybody sees you as this like huddled mass underneath a blanket.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's an introvert. Like,
look, I'll prove I'm on a beach. I can point the camera down. You can see the sand.
Yeah, look, there's sand. This is so great. Vacations are dope. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. It'd be like I'm experiencing the small fraction of this experience that I can tolerate.
Yeah, that's about it.
So
yeah.
what are you working on lately, Russ? Like what's been grabbing your attention in not just the automation space, but just like networking generally? What kind of stuff do you think needs a little more focus?
Yeah, so what's really been grabbing my attention is moving towards autonomic networking, trying to figure out how to get rid of automation.
Please elaborate.
No. Yeah, well, not really to get rid of a lot, but I think we spend far too much time just configuring devices, regardless. And the network should just run. I mean, you should just rack and stack stuff and plug it in, and it should just work. I mean, it's crazy how much time. I mean, for things like policy and stuff like that, yeah, you need to do configuration, you need overlays, you need controllers, everything else. But why really are we spending time configuring stuff all the time?
So it sounds like your opinion is like that we just have too many options. Like we've got like a smorgasbord of ways to do things, but in reality, especially lately, there's really not a need for that much flexibility. We just think that we need that flexibility.
Right. If we could get rid of that whole OSPF protocol, it'd be a good start. No.
Yeah. I haven't configured a production network in a few years. And even then, I don't think I even touched OSPF. There was one environment where we were running OSPF, but that was a few years even before that. It was all BGP, and I think there was one environment with ISIS. I remember when I first interned at a large retail company, it was like 2,500 sites still running RIP, and I was like somewhat related to the migration process off of that. I think that was OSPF. Oh my God.
Yeah, there you go. Donnie Savage always used to say, there's children in the room. You can't let them use 4-letter words like OSPF.
Nice.
Like, don't.
Nice. Is that why EIGRP is 5 long?
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, well, we have this IGRP, but that's 4 letters. We can't tolerate that. We got to add an E on the beginning. Screw it.
4-letter protocols.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I've been working a lot around ISIS and trying to figure out, which by the way, isn't 4 letters because it has a dash.
That is true. That is true. It is five
And
characters.
it's a 5 character.
And it's
So,
also
you
very
know, and
different from ISIS without a dash.
exactly, which is why it's very important that you put the dash in there
Yes, highly
when,
important.
when you're talking
As the
about
writers of the show Archer will attest.
it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so just working around that and thinking about ISIS on data center fabrics and stuff like that. Two drafts to work on, like I said, that are in that space
So why
that are
ISIS
fairly,
for data center fabrics? Like compare that because obviously BGP is the current craze, has been for a few years. Contrast it against that, and then of course contrast it with I think ISIS's closest cousin, which is OSPF because they both are shortest path
yeah.
first.
So BGP, I think the problem with BGP is not so much BGP itself, although BGP converges pig slow, which
Sure.
is not really good on a data center fabric. The fastest I could get BGP to converge on a large scale data center fabric is about a minute,
Yeah.
and a minute's a little bit too long
Yeah.
in large scale changes and stuff like that. And the second reason is BGP has become the trash can of the internet. And we've just got to stop throwing stuff in the trash can. It's overflowing, people. Stop. you know, I can remember when Cisco iOS broke 1 million lines of code. I would bet there are BGP implementations that are 200,000 or 300,000 lines of code
Sure.
today. And it's just crazy. It's like its own operating system. It's
Yeah.
just insane, and it's too complex. And it's not a knock on BGP. It's just that we keep throwing junk at it, and we just keep trying to. Oh, let's make it where it'll auto configure when you bring up two BGP peers. We'll make it do auto discovery like ISIS does and OSPF does. Yeah, that's not really the point.
Yeah.
That's not what it was designed to do. Oh, we'll convert it into RIP for a data center fabric. No, that's not really what it was designed to do either. It's kind of like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this?
I've seen
And
this
then
trend in
really,
networking for a while, actually. Like I've noticed this outside of even just routing protocols. Like I've given talks on some tools that I create, or on tools that other people have created. I'm just sort of educating people about them, and it'll always be it changes from year to year. But the latest, the one that I've heard over the past few years is always, I give the presentation on how this tool works, and they're like, well, I could just do that with Ansible. Which isn't again, it's not a knock against Ansible. I think the nature of these tools, if you have a tool that is flexible and allows you to do all kinds of different things with it, everybody tries to make it do everything. I don't know what it is about the
yeah,
networking industry that is like that. It's kind of
yeah,
unique. If you look at like the sysadmin industry, they're not nearly that bad. I know there's some corners of it, but I don't know. Something about the networking industry wants to try to make a single tool do all the things, and then when it breaks, we move on to the new tool, and then that becomes the thing that we put everything
yeah. And
into.
then we make it do all the things,
Yeah.
and then it breaks, and then we build another one and make it. Yes, it's been a pattern for a long time. Yeah. So I mean, again, it's not a knock on BGP. I just think it's not. We just need to stop trying to make it do everything.
Yeah.
As far as ISIS versus OSPF, the main reason I like ISIS better for this particular situation is just that it's easier to work with. It's TLVs. And it's so easy to just throw stuff in there and make things work and do stuff. And there's some efficiency things too. It's more efficient running SPF than OSPF is. Kind of ironic that since SPF is in the name.
Yeah. Yeah.
OSPF.
It's kind of
yeah.
funny.
But it is a bit more efficient in the way that it carries data to allow it to be more to run SPF faster. And it's just, the flooding's kind of, you don't really have complete sequence number packets and partials, completes and partials in OSPF. So you don't really have any way of validating that the database is correct. I mean, you could create them in OSPF, but they're already there in ISIS. And the one that Tony P hates, which is that ISIS is layer 2 instead of layer 3. So you don't need IP.
Yeah.
Technically, it's feasible to build an entire network that forwards IP v4 and v6 with no interface addresses anywhere in the network using ISIS. There's no implementations that can do that because they need next hops for fibs and everything else. But it's technically feasible to do that. So it's kind of a cool thing that you could do.
So this whole like running peering relationships over each other that we have in BGP, it's not really a thing in ISIS.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even run on top of like.
Honestly, that was the biggest struggle that I had coming not from a service provider background. Like my routing experience was with BGP was just very like, user centric. Like I know how to peer with stuff. Like I'd never built anything advanced. And so this idea of like building meshes that like laid on top of each other was just very foreign to me, and it was very confusing because I was used to
Yes.
like, oh, I spin up OSPF and it talks, I do the Wireshark capture and I see the packets between these two interfaces that I can physically hold in my hand. you know. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was rough.
exactly. Yeah, I know it's not like that, and it gets even worse in the cloud, right? BGP in the cloud gets even worse
Yeah.
because it's a virtual machine with no interfaces, sitting someplace else. But the cloud is just somebody else's computer. So
Well, hold on. What are you talking about? It's serverless, so there's no servers.
yeah, there's no computers. It's serverless.
Yeah.
Yeah, serverless to me is just somebody is just a reincarnation of the mainframe.
What's funny is today we actually went live. NRE Labs went live on a new bare metal as a service provider, so we're actually like still in the cloud, but we're going like even further away from like VMs. It's like everything's cyclical. We're coming back to bare metal, baby.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Well, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, that I think is a big growth area. Um, Packet and DigitalOcean and places like that are just doing bare metal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I use DigitalOcean for labbing whenever I lab. I don't know the physical lab anymore.
Yeah.
I just use DigitalOcean
You
and set
can't, you
things up.
really can't beat it. I mean, just the like the programmability of like being able to spin things up in the cloud generally is useful. But then of course also the billing as you go. So like if you don't need it anymore, you can shut it down. If you combine that with the fact that you're not actually running in a VM, that's a huge deal. And Packet, you mentioned
Yeah.
Packet, that's what we're using, and obviously DigitalOcean as well. Both of them have like Terraform providers and fully documented APIs. It's like really trivial to get started. This is something that was not possible like 4 years ago, even like or 3 years ago.
Right.
It's crazy. Like this is also
Yeah,
super new.
it is. Yeah. And it's all Kubernetes and stuff like that now. Speaking of Kubernetes, right? That's the other project we're kind of working on. Now, you're working on this one as well. So I'll include you in the conversation is to
Yeah,
build a large scale, and I mean really large scale, virtual test bed for testing routing protocols. It's like a test harness
yeah,
that you can throw containers at, configure it up, and let it run. Um, uh, Planning on 2,560 nodes is kind of where the guesswork is. Now I can't figure out whether to run a butterfly or a Benes. I've been considering that problem.
what's the difference?
Which one did? They're just wired different. I don't have a diagram. I can't show you.
No, do it with your
There's
hands,
little.
Russ. Draw it with your
Yeah,
hands.
it's like this versus this. Yeah.
Draw it on that
So
like
yeah.
super like royal gold background that you've constructed for yourself.
This is a hotel room, man.
You look like you're in like the press conference area of like some palace.
I'm in the gold room. Yeah,
You're in
the
the
gold
gold
room.
room.
That's it, the gold room. I
Nice.
mean, normally you'd see the buffalo behind me if I was in Apex, or you'd see my. If I'm ever in Oak Island, you can tell the difference between an Oak Island. I have my original digital research CPM disk,
Yeah, nice.
5 1/4
Nice.
sitting behind me. I framed them.
Nice. I don't have like, I mean, I have some older electronics. I should display them. The oldest thing that I haven't touched in a while is probably like all of my CCNA study books that I probably just need to get rid of because I'm not gonna be reserting on those anytime soon. Um,
And those
yeah,
books probably
is the
wouldn't
nice
be
way of
helpful
saying
by now.
that. That's true. No, yeah, they're totally outdated because that's the old version. I haven't even looked at the whatever the new format that just came out. No.
You saw that, right? Pearson just went digital first, so they're gonna only print when you ask for print or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they changed their entire billing system and everything to be digital first, which was interesting to me because that's a major shift in the publishing industry.
Hmm.
When somebody like Pearson does it,
Yeah, that's a big swing for sure.
yeah, that's a big swing for them
Wonder
to
when
do it. Yeah.
O'Reilly's going to do that because O'Reilly's been running on Safari for a long time. They definitely have the infrastructure to make that decision if they wanted to.
Yeah, maybe they already are. Maybe they were set up that way first because of Safari.
Hmm.
I don't know. I, I I don't really work with O'Reilly a lot. I've talked to them a couple of times, but I have good friends at Pearson, so I tend to work with Pearson just because it's relationships.
Sure, that's usually what it comes
You
down
know,
to.
it's
Um,
usually what it comes down to.
I want to go back to what you said earlier about autonomic networking. Can you highlight and contrast that with what you view in terms of like automation and what the difference is and what we should be focusing on?
Right. So what I would like to see, particularly for like a data center fabric, but everywhere if possible, is you shouldn't have to configure IP routing. Like it should just work. You should if you need to configure a policy to do whatever else, that's fine, and that goes on top. That goes as an automatable thing. But like, I shouldn't be bringing up a device and configuring ISIS on
Right.
it. now, now I don't really apply that to BGP because BGP is basically a distributed policy language that kind of does routing on the side.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
you know, Tony Lee hates it when I say that, but that's really the way I think of it.
Well, I think this
BGP
is.
is
I
more.
mean, this is funny because like we, and we've gone to customers and and other people in the industry where we talk about like just operations more broadly, and let's just like take the automation buzzword and set it aside and just assume that there's automation involved in every aspect of ops because there is,
Right.
like or at least
Or
there
there
can
should
be
be.
or should be. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. If
And
you're not doing it, you should be doing it.
and I think this is one of the biggest shortcomings with the network automation conversation is that whenever you hear the words network automation, everybody assumes what you mean is that you're automating the configuration of the network. And like that can be true and often is, but it's definitely not the whole picture. Like if you look at any reasonably automated operations, network operations or other just generally infrastructure operations team, you'll see pockets of automation that tie disciplines together or tie sort of technology areas together. Like there will be a lot of, especially larger scale companies, they'll release versions of their own infrastructure in like pods, and there's a whole team dedicated to like versioning pods of infrastructure. It's like V3 of the pod that runs Oracle or whatever it is. And like
Right. Yeah.
there's automation within that, but then there's also automation that ties different like applications together. And you say like, oh, well, we have this automation that says, okay, whenever a ticket is open in ServiceNow, then we touch this other script that's specific to version 2 of this pod. And oh, by the way, it also reaches into our wireless system and our voice system and all kinds of stuff like that. And I think that's the biggest piece that people are missing when they talk about network automation is they limit themselves mentally and often verbally to this like very 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 small scope of network automation equals automated network configuration changes. And like
Right.
A, we shouldn't be making that many configuration changes to the network, and B, there is so much more on the average network engineer's plate than making configuration changes on a network device.
Right.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
the network shouldn't need as much configuration as it needs today. Networks are
Yeah.
really needy in terms of configuration. Like we just shouldn't need to configure a lot of this stuff, right? I mean, why am I configuring V6 addresses for loopbacks on routers?
Sure.
I mean, what is that about? I should, you know, that should just happen.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing that? That's crazy. Or
Yeah.
interface addresses. Why am I doing that stuff?
Yeah.
That should just happen. It should just be there. Why am I configuring ISIS? Now, again, BGP, because you have policy, is the other way around. You do want to configure it. In fact, you want to be very intentional about what you're configuring. But DHCP, why can't I just tell this network where there's a DHCP server and it just figures out that everybody gets an address out of that pool?
Sure.
Why? Why am I doing this stuff? That's just crazy. And then that would allow me to spend my time thinking about things like policy, right? Like QoS, other things, and troubleshooting. Why do I need to manually go out and figure out that if this interface is having trouble, that I need to collect different kinds of information? Why doesn't the network just do that?
Yeah.
Or why isn't there automation just to do that, right? By the time I get to looking at it and go, hey, yeah, there's a problem with this interface, all that information should already know how to dig into what additional things I'm going to want to collect to
Sure.
figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and the thing that you're still on the hook for, which is policy, is not always a very easy thing to come across, right? A lot of times you don't necessarily know how you want the policies to be constructed. You need to actually go figure that out, and you need to reach into other systems, often at the application layer, in order to figure out exactly how to construct your policies. And
Right.
and
Yeah.
and a lot of those things can and should be done programmatically and aren't currently being done that way because again, typically they're done via like different silos. Like storage is a great example. I used to, and this is still happening today in fiber channel storage networks. And I'm sorry, I know fiber channel is like old hat, but it is still dominant in the storage space. Like the fact that we still have to say, okay, I have my server and I need to look up the storage equivalent of a MAC address, which is a WWPN. I got to take that, I got to copy it into my switch config manually. The fact that that still exists is horrendous. That is a heinous
Yeah.
crime that we are on the hook for, like looking at this one system and this other system being like, copy paste this, you know, it's like stupid. It should just be one of those things. And this is one of the earliest things that I ever automated was, okay, well, I know that this is UCS and I know that this is the, you know, the Nexus 5000 or the MDS or whatever it was. Just tell them to talk to each other. Like literally, I'll write a script to go into one and put it into the other, and just now I'm out of the loop. Like we
Right.
still want to be what I like to refer to as like we want to make ourselves these sort of structurally in band with the rest of, like, we want to become part of the
Yeah.
infrastructure, holding it up
Right.
ourselves, and it's senseless.
Yeah.
We got too much to
Yeah,
do.
it is. We want to be the central node in the physical operation of the network, or the logical. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not where we should be.
It kind of
right?
almost, you know, you could take that to an extreme, and honestly, this sounds cool because it's super nerdy. But like, if you could like print out a packet, and like, you know, just like the hex of a payload, and then like take that via paper, walk it over to another terminal, and type it in, and that goes into another network port, and then you're a routing protocol.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Old or transport protocol. Yeah, old style sneaker net, man.
There you go. Packet by packet. We've got an amazing amount of throughput, but the latency is really bad.
Well, that's Tannenbaum and the station wagon example. That's right.
Yeah. Or like
Right.
or like a dump truck full of hard drives.
Yeah, you'll never, ever. You can't even buy a link today that will compete with the bandwidth of a medium-sized FedEx overnight box.
Yep.
You just can't.
Which
It's
is still
physically
funny.
not even-
Yeah.
Yeah,
It kind
not
of
even
shows you just
possible.
how much storage is still growing alongside, you know, bandwidth. We talk
Yeah.
about like, you know, 10 gig was like, seems like 5 years ago, and now like 40 and 50, you know, 25, 50, 100, that kind of thing. And like, that's awesome, but you know, storage is also kind of going up through the roof right now.
Yeah.
Like I can
yeah.
buy a hard
I mean,
drive for really cheap that's like, you know, a couple terabytes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just put I think I just put 4 terabyte drives or 6 terabyte drives in my NASs
Yeah.
at home. Because it's like they weren't that much more expensive. I needed to replace the NAS anyway. So I was like, okay, I'll just replace the NAS. So what kind of drive should I buy? Oh, I'll just go look and see what there is. Oh, look, like 6 terabyte. It's just not that expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, the that was one of the coolest things I did with my home infrastructure, was buying a NAS, because you can run all kinds of cool stuff on them now. Like there's some NASs that come with Docker installed. You can
Right.
run like your own like internal version control. That's pretty wild. And then of course, you know, storage being as cheap as it is, like there's not really a reason not to do it. So
Oh yeah,
it's
I
a lot of
rip all
fun.
my DVD movies. I shouldn't say this in public, but I rip all the DVDs. I
Yeah.
put them on the NAS.
It allows me
Because
to
that way you
store
don't have to do-
terabytes of documents that I made myself and have the intellectual property of.
No, but I do. I have like 2 or 3 terabytes of just videos that have been ripped off DVDs, and it's just so much easier than figuring out where the DVD is stored and
Sure.
flipping through some book or whatever. And it's just, hey, you just go to the NAS interface and go, yeah, right there. That's what we want to watch.
Nice.
And so
All right, Russ. Well, we are getting about to the end of the period where people are done with their little coffee break. So why don't you tell people how they can get a hold of you and what you're working on next that might be of interest?
Yeah, sure. You can always find me at rule11.tech. That's kind of the hub for everything that I work on and do most of the time. I cross post everything there. You can always find me at Juniper, doing whatever I'm doing at Juniper. I don't know. Maybe somebody at Juniper should tell me what I'm doing.
Well, I know what you're doing this week.
Yeah, this week I'm in San Jose in in a hotel with this beautiful orange.
Yeah, you think the
Wonderful.
background's impressive. You should see the front. There's like gold-plated like statues of lions and like little baby giraffes serving you drinks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Baby giraffes. They carry the tray on their head.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man. All right, Russ. Always great to talk to you.
Yep, great to talk to
We
you.
will chat again soon,
see
I'm
you
sure.
sometime or another. Yeah,
All right. Thanks, man.
thanks.